Happy Sunday, everybody, and welcome to another Arkansas Football Recruiting Report. As always, that is Otis Kirk. I am Jacob Morris. Otis, we are, I looked it up today. We're about
Mm.
118 days away from Alabama A&M, which feels closer than it should be, but also feels about 10 years away. Regardless, we've got a lot of recruiting to talk about for the Hogs. A
Yeah.
productive week, both in the high
Yeah.
school ranks and the transfer portal ranks as well. It feels like college football is just year-round at this point. I guess that's
It is.
good for
It
Hog
definitely is.
fans. Yeah, you got things to talk about. We're going to start high school ranks and going to start with a
Yeah.
tight end out of Pflugerville, Texas. Javion Martin, he committed earlier this week. Guy with 20-plus offers, a tight end. A
Yeah.
guy Arkansas wanted to add, and a class of 2026 guy that Arkansas does end up netting.
I got lucky with him, Jacob. I was covering the football camp last summer, and and I got over there and I was standing by the tight ends. And there was a huge kid. I mean, a big kid, just towered above most of the campers and was just really good making catches and looking and doing the blocking drills. And when they had a break, I interviewed him. It was Javion Martin, and
Okay.
so he was a really nice kid, and he's just so good. And I mean, I was the only one I think that interviewed him because I just happened to be in the right place at the right time to see him. And at the time, he wasn't offered by Arkansas or anybody, so he really wasn't on my list of ones I really wanted to see. But I just saw the big kid that making all the plays. And I said, and I figured though then when I saw him, I said, I'm Arkansas's going to see the same thing I saw. And they did. They offered him, and I had no idea where he was going to college, but I knew he liked it here and he liked A&M a lot. But he really liked Arkansas. Of course, he's from the Austin area down there, Pflugerville. But uh, I just he yeah, he committed Friday, and yeah, I was driving to out of town, and I wrote that story in Waldron, Arkansas. I had to pull over to I found him. Well, I went to the McDonald's there and wrote the story, and yeah, he's just a guy that can do it all. He's 6'4", 250, can catch a football, really good hands. Really good hands. He had 50 something catches, I believe. Put his highlight film in my story there on Pig Trail Nation Hogville. If you haven't seen the story, go in there and read it because you can click on his highlight film right
Yeah.
there and you can see what he can do. But he's a complete tight end, number 7 in the country, number 7th ranked tight end in the nation. And I like him. I can't imagine there's 6 better than him, but maybe they are. But Arkansas got a good one. They got the kid from Minnesota earlier in the process, but
Yeah.
I really like Javion a lot better. They're both, got their way. And of course, I haven't seen the kid from Minnesota play like I have Martin, so I'm biased to him. But I think Morgan Turner has really done a good
Hmm.
job with this portal. I mean, I'm sorry, with tight end recruiting. He went to the portal and got them last year, kind of. This year, he's getting them from the high school ranks, kind of doing a mixture there. Well, you got Garrison from the high school ranks last year. We had him on here, Gavin Garrison. But he's kind of doing a very good job of recruiting out of the portal and high school, using it to get kids both ways. But I tell you, Martin, if long as he makes it to campus, because he's not signed, he's only committed. But as long as he makes it to campus, I think he will. Uh, they got a really good one there. I mean, he's up there with the coach in Yarborough's and those type of commitments. I mean, he's one of the better ones on Arkansas's list. Tay Lockett, some of those kids. This kid's right there with all of them, and I like him a lot, Jacob. He Razorback fans are going to like him. And he's got the size and speed combo that you want
Hmm.
in a tight end. And he's even bigger than Luke was. Luke has he's bigger than him. Can run like Luke could. Yeah, so he can run. He's bigger than Rohan Jones. He's just a he's really, like I said, he's a complete tight end. He's got the size to block. He's got the hands and speed to go downfield and catch passes. Kind of the complete tight end that can do both. And when you get a kid like that, you're getting somebody that you really want. And Arkansas took off with that one. I mean, he's like I said, I put him up there in the top 2 or 3 commitments in this class. I've got Colton number 1, but he's right there with them. And I haven't really sat down and wrote a list. Well, I mean, I've got the list, but I haven't broke it down like, okay, these 3 or 4
Yeah.
favorites. But he's right. He is in my top 2 or 3, 4 players in this class. I commitments. He's that good. But he and Colton, you get players like that, you're going to be in good shape in recruiting, and then you can sprinkle in other players and stuff. But we'll see what happens. I'm gonna go see a couple of kids this week from the area here, see them practice with starting, and so get out and do local stuff here. But these are out of state kids, and like I said, Martin can just do it all. I
Mhm.
guess the best way to say it is what I've said, just complete tight end, Jacob. He can do whatever you got. You don't have to like spot play him. Some kids you spot play them. They're not big enough to block, so you put them in to catch passes. Then you bring some bigger guy in block. He can do that. He can stay in. He's a 4 down tight end. He can do it all.
Yeah, 6'3", 250, 6'4", 250, somewhere in that
Yeah,
range. Elite size, like you were talking about. And again, it doesn't, always translate, but oftentimes at the high school ranks, you don't see tight ends produce the way that he did
right,
in his junior season.
right.
I mean, 800 yards, 50 plus catches. It just is the fact of high school football. Oftentimes they're just underutilized, or they're more often blocking, and
Yeah,
they come in raw in
yeah,
terms of
yeah.
receiving. And he's the complete deal, and a big get for Morgan Turner there, a Pflugerville guy,
That was a
like you
huge.
said. And yeah,
Yeah,
a nice pickup in the 2026 class, and he wasn't the only pass catcher the Hogs nabbed this week as well. Robert Haynes the fourth, another Texas guy, a speedy guy,
right.
a track runner,
This kid's got a lot.
runs the 100. He can fly. The Hogs added the
Yeah.
receiver class as well. More 2026 additions there with Haynes.
What Arkansas feels like they got there is kind of like the Ferguson kid that was in the last year's class
Yeah.
that got hurt this spring, got hurt. They feel like he's very similar to him. Ferguson was from Texas, had a lot of speed. Yeah, Robert's got a lot of speed, can run, can catch football, and he may be a year away from being is ready to really make a
Yeah.
big contribution, but they feel like he can play some immediately, and then he's one of them, but they feel like it's only going to get better as time goes along. And so I like him, and he's got really good hands. But the biggest thing about him is he's got unbelievable speed,
Mhm.
and they love speed. Bobby
Yeah.
Petrino loves speed. And this kid can get down the field and catch passes for the quarterback, and is a deep threat. And I don't think you can ever get too many deep threats. And
Nope.
he is a deep threat, and that's what attracted them to him. They're on a lot of wide receivers. They've got kids wanting to commit there at
Hmm.
wide receiver. They've got a lot of kids out here, and some in Louisiana, some in Texas, some in Arkansas. They're close to pulling the trigger or wanting to, and but they took him, and they're not going to regret it because, like I said, he's a deep threat who can catch football, and he should be an asset at Arkansas. Ronnie Faust does a very good job recruiting. He's like Morgan Turner. They go out and they get these kids, and they don't get everybody they want, obviously, but they get a lot of the good ones.
Hmm.
But Ronnie got a good one there, and we'll see how this translates. But you never know for sure, high school to college, how it translates. But I do know they feel really good about him. I know they like Pittman bragged on Ferguson, and
Yeah.
he got hurt. He said he was somebody that was going to help him, and he still can. He just said that injury delayed him. But Sam really bragged on Ferguson, and they feel like this kid is just like Ferguson, if not better. At least as good or better. And so that's kind of tells you about Haynes. But yeah, he got offered, knew he wanted to come here, and they didn't mess around with
Hmm.
Fouch didn't play the game of, well, we'll see who else we get. They said, hey, we want you, come here. He felt wanted, and he didn't feel like there was any need to wait on making a commitment. This is where he wanted to go, and Arkansas showed the most interest in the fact that they weren't hesitant about taking him.
Hmm.
The schools get hesitant at this point because they're getting, Arkansas's got 14, 15 commitments, and schools start getting hesitant about taking too many players at one position and then filling the class too early. And official visits haven't even started yet. Those are coming up in the next
Yeah.
month. The whole month of June will be filled, or the end of May, the last weekend of May, and then the first 2 or 3 weekends in June. We're going to be talking official visits every Sunday on here, and so they haven't even started yet. And yet they're getting these kids committed. It's that many in the class, but Haynes is someone that they didn't hesitate to take when they offered him. It was a take offer. I mean, he was a kid that they would take. Not everybody get offers is someone that all offers are not the same, is what
Yeah.
I'm trying to say, Jay. You offer a kid, but I'm not ready to take him yet. That's how you do it. But this was one they offered, and they were ready to take him. So people don't understand that, and it's complicated, it's confusing, it's but it's the way it's what it is. It is what it is. I mean, not everybody gets an offer as a complete take right then, but he was. And but we'll see how he does. He had good stats down there this
Hmm.
year, or last year. I'm sorry, last season. Got a big senior year coming up. If he stays healthy, I think he'll only add to those stats. And so we'll see. But I do know the speed is what attracted them to him initially, and then just they feel like he's pretty much a complete receiver.
Yeah, yeah, 10-7-7, 100. He can
Yeah,
absolutely fly. Yeah, same sort of deal. Same sort of deal as Martin. In your article, you got
yeah,
his highlights there as well. If you get a chance, go
yeah,
ahead and watch that because he can absolutely
yeah.
fly and take the top off of defense, which is exciting in a Bobby Petrino offense for sure.
Oh man,
We're gonna
Trino loves speed, man.
yeah,
He
yeah,
loves speed. Bobby
yeah.
does. Well, all coaches do, but Bobby really
Hmm.
thrives on that.
Yeah, 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 and it'll be curious, obviously, how the some of the transfer wide receivers put it together speed wise. That was a priority in the portal.
Yeah,
Portal this cycle around, and we'll talk a little bit about that coming up. But Haynes, a guy that has plenty of speed. It'll be fun to see him in an Arkansas uniform.
yeah.
Let's switch. Speaking of the portal, and start talking a little bit of transfer portal. Let's go over to the defensive line, Frank Molapola, and I'm just going to kind of get out of your way here because I know you feel strongly about this one. He's a small school guy, Otis. He
Yeah.
dominated. And I'm just going to get out of your way and let you talk on him. Tell me why you love him.
I love him because he dominated the level. I don't care, and hey, I'd never heard of that school, Texas
Yeah.
Odessa Permian.
Texas
I mean,
Permian
Odessa.
Basin. Yeah.
No, I'd never heard of that school down there in Texas, college. But what I look at, I know older fans will remember Melvin Bradley from Martin, that played at Martin, Arkansas. And people were concerned about him because he played at a small school, but he dominated at Martin. This is the same way with Frank. He's 6'4", 275. The one regret I have on him, Jacob, I wish he had 2 years or three left to
Yeah.
play because
Yep.
he's 275. You get him in the weight room Arkansas has over there, this kid could be 300 pretty easily.
Yeah.
I think they might get him to 285, 290 even before this season. But he's only got 1 year. I hate that. But but he can play any of the positions on the defensive line. He can play edge, end, tackle. He can play that
Hmm.
anywhere on that defensive line. He can slide. And yeah, he's light, 275. We all know you want bigger than that. That's why I wish he had more than 1 year. But I like because he dominates. He can really get it. Now I'm gonna tell you, if you watch, and his film is on there, but
Hmm.
if you watch that film, one thing you will see, and I think it's a must for any defensive player, a must for anybody, is a motor. He's
Yeah.
got a huge motor. I mean, nonstop, put it to the floor, hammer down left lane motor. He's got that. I know that's going to make people that thought of that statement, but no, I mean seriously, I'm joking about that. But no, he has that motor that you really want, and he can hammer down. He goes at it. The one drawback would be his size, at 275 when he plays inside. Now it's not a drawback at end, but I feel like they needed another defensive lineman, and they felt like he was the best one available. And to be honest with you, the portal wasn't rich with defensive
No.
tackles this
No. No.
year.
No.
Yeah, it wasn't a strong portal class on defensive tackles. So you go in there, defensive lineman, period. But you go in there and you look, and they felt like this is somebody that hey, he can play, and he's somebody too that could, that if he lined up at the edge or something, then he could slide inside on third down, can rush
Hmm.
the passer because he gives you that spark, he's really like to say he ignites from inside, man. He explodes. He gives you some explosion from inside. But I like him, and I'll be honest with you. When I first found out about him, I was uh, skeptical, I guess is the word. I'm not gonna lie, I was skeptical. But I trust Deke Adams completely. He does a good job. He finds these kids. He offered coaching in 8th grade,
Yeah.
but I was skeptical of this kid being from a small college like that in 275. But when you put on that film and you watch him, you won't be too skeptical. And considering what was available, I think it was a great get. I really do, because like you got to understand, there wasn't a Cam Ball in the portal. There
Mm-mm.
just wasn't. And
No.
so I think Arkansas got one of the better ones, somebody that can play and help them immediately. And he can rush the passer. And he can put pressure on the quarterback. And that, kind of like we talk about, you can never get too many speedy receivers. Well, you can't get too many pass
Yeah.
rushers on the defensive line. They love pass rushers. Everybody does. T. Will, Deke Adams, every coach in America that has anything to do with defense loves pass rushers. Think of the NFL's draft. They love pass rushers. If you can get to that quarterback, you've got a chance to be drafted. And I think Mulapala's got a really good chance of helping Arkansas tremendously this year. And just remember, I mean, it wasn't like it was rich in defensive linemen in the portal this year. And I feel like Arkansas got one of the better ones, especially if you're talking about the spring edition of the portal. I mean, 10-day opening, and Arkansas, I think they got in there and got him and got pretty much one of the better ones. And I do feel like he can help him though, Jacob. I mean, like I said earlier, I do wish he had 2 years where they could put more weight on him, but he doesn't. So you just take him and make the best of what you got. And but they did need another lineman in the portal, and they got him.
Yeah, we talk about it a ton, over and over and over again. But defensive line and offensive line just is there is
Yeah.
not as much talent there in the portal,
No.
and it's kind of a side tangent conversation. But I think as we continue to venture further and further year by year into this, whatever you want to call it, transfer portal era. I think you probably noticed the same thing, Otis. At the beginning, it was Wild West, free for all, and you still see a lot of
Yeah.
that with guys chasing money. But I think collectives and schools are getting a lot better at retention and realizing the importance
Yeah.
of prioritizing their guys. Sam talked about that with Arkansas. You identify the guys
Yeah.
that we can't lose, and schools are
Yeah.
doing a much better job of identifying those and making sure they
Yeah.
stick around on
Well,
rosters. And ultimately, I think that's good for college football. You might say,
yeah,
"Oh,
I do too.
Arkansas needs a defensive
Well,
lineman. I want a defensive lineman." But if you're looking at full scale health of the sport, it's probably a good
yeah.
thing overall. But it's just the truth. And then you add that on top of the fact that O linemen and D linemen in the portal are a bit more sparse, and the result is there just aren't that many options. But this is a piece that Arkansas felt like, hey,
Yeah.
we can add to the depth, and it's a position in need here in the portal.
And you got to remember too, they did get Philip Lee from
Yep.
Troy recently, and they got David Oki early
Hmm.
from Prairie View A&M. So Arkansas did a pretty good job of getting between the other portal and this one. They did a pretty good job. Then they got the kid Talley from Michigan State. So they've got some other defensive linemen, but this portal opening, they wanted to make sure they got one in the second portal, spring portal, and ended up getting two, Philip Lee and then Frank Molapola. So I think Arkansas pretty well met their needs there. But as you said, people like they don't like Cam Ball go to the portal, Jacob. You can't.
Yeah,
You can't lose
it's
a
not.
kid like Cam Ball.
Nope.
And everybody's got a Cam Ball that it has a top defensive tackle, and they're not letting them get away because you can't. You got to pay them and keep them on campus because you can't. Those guys they don't grow on trees. One of my
Mm-mm.
favorite sayings.
Hmm.
My mother used to say nothing. They don't grow on trees. Mostly when I ask for money, but no, you just can't let those kids get away because it's not as easy. You could probably find you a running back, but you
And a
defensive
receiver.
tackles, even
But
edge rushers, man, they
yeah.
just don't grow on trees, man. Receivers, you can find running backs, but boy, defensive, even when you get, teams in the NFL look for left tackles.
Hmm.
They look for edge rusher, pass rusher, and big defensive tackles, a cover corner, a quarterback. Those are things that don't grow on trees. Even the NFL looks for every year, Jacob, and that's what Arkansas did here. And I'm impressed with what they've gotten 28, be 29 when they fill the final spot out of the portal between the two portal openings will be 29 kids, and and they're waiting on one, and we'll talk about him in a minute.
Yeah, and I'll clarify that there's still thousands on thousands of kids entering the transfer portal. It's still the
Right,
Wild West in that regard. But in terms of key pieces, guys that you think are going to start for you
right.
at the SEC, teams are getting better and better at retaining pieces. And Arkansas was an example of that as well. But let's stay on the defensive side. Another addition for Arkansas, a linebacker addition, Andrew Harris out of UCF. And you had a great article on Harris, and I'm going to cherry pick a quote here and tell me if this sounds familiar, like something that
I know
we've
what you're
talked
going to
about
say. I know what you're
every
going to say.
single week. Yep. You asked him, about the coaching staff, and he said, the people here, Coach T. Will, I feel like putting my trust in T. Will and me being the best man I can be and a better football player. Coach T. Will, for sure, I feel like he's going to change my life. And the reason I cherry picked that is because, Otis, we talk about this
Yeah,
over and over and over and over and over again with the defensive staff.
yeah,
They close these guys because they really feel like they can connect with the defensive staff.
yeah. T. Will recruited that kid to UCF when he was there and taught
Hmm.
him how to fish. He taught him how
There you
to
go.
fish. Personal stuff. You don't
Yeah.
hear how many recruits say he's the one that taught me to fish. Yeah, it's personal stuff there. It's beyond just it's beyond where he's just going to make me the best football player I can
Yeah.
be. He's going to make me the best person. You said he the best person. The best person I can be. It's beyond just football stuff with the staff, and that's where they make a difference. And yeah, I knew you'd like that quote. But yeah,
Always.
he visited and flew in here. He got in here Wednesday night, I believe it was pretty late. T. Will picked him up at X and A
There
and
you
brought
go.
him down, and he left Friday morning. Yeah, because he left. I wrote his story in Greenwood, Arkansas, on the way out of town. I'm driving in the rain. These kids are committing and signing, and so I got him in Greenwood and the other one in Waldron. But anyway, yeah, but yeah, Andrew's 6'2", 6'2", 233 pounds. He was a 4-star recruit in high school, Jacob, really highly recruited.
Hmm.
And he played down there, and T. Will got him over to UCF. And he's and the good thing about him is he only played 2 years of college football, so he's got time
Yep.
left to
Yep.
play.
Yep. Yep.
He's got 3 more years to play football, so so he can get in there with T. Will. And people say, why are they taking a linebacker when you've got Xavier Sorey and Stephen Dix? Well, this is Sorey and Dix's second year. This kid will have 3 years. So, you've got to have somebody when they leave. You've got to have somebody good there. And they feel like they've got that with this kid. So, yeah, I mean, they didn't take any linebackers in the winter portal, and
Yeah.
out of the spring they've taken two, but these are guys that can help. And one good thing about linebackers too, man, they can always help on special teams. They're warriors on special teams. They're really good. The coaches love them on special teams. But Harris is somebody that his best football's ahead of him, I guess is one way to say it, Jacob. You don't always say that about kids out of the portal because most of you feel like, well, you're getting him right now, and he's already proven he can do it. Harris is more along the lines of his best football's ahead of him. He's played a lot of special teams out at UCF. Didn't have big stats. I think he had 9 tackles or something.
Hmm.
But he was, redshirt freshman. But he is somebody though that will help him. And as I said, he can get in here and play this year, back up, and then when Sorey and Dix leave next year, he'll be in a chance to do what they did, start 2 years at Arkansas. He'll
Yeah.
have a chance to do exactly what they did.
Yeah, you mentioned the special teams aspect of it there. When we got to talk with Scott Fountain, he talked about, I believe it was
Yeah.
Stephen Dix, who was like, he said you
Yeah.
get certain guys, right, that come in and, Stephen Dix he's a starter. He's rotating, he's playing.
Yeah.
And Coach Fountain was talking about, he's like, I can't get him off the field. He comes to me and he says, Coach, I want to play special teams. I'm not going to come off the field. So it's a great point there as well. And it's another aspect you're talking about there. And that's going to be a kind of perfect lead into the last guy we're going to talk about, where there's two different ways you go about adding in the portal. And one is obviously the instant addition and the guy that can come on and start, and we need to fill a gap. Right. Think Caleb Wooden, right? And then the other is some of these other guys that you've seen Arkansas add, where it's almost an extension of your high school recruiting, where you get these guys for 3-4 years, obviously with the caveat of if they stick around, it is 2025.
Right, that's the key. But you got to recruit them.
Yeah, and it's two different ways to kind of recruit through the portal, and you give yourself an opportunity to add a depth piece, win guys and starters like Sorey and whoever it might be move on next year. But it is kind of a perfect segue into one more receiver target the Hogs are looking at right now, and that's Jalen Brown out of Florida State. He's also similar to Harris in the way that you were describing, a really highly initially high school recruiting kid. He was a top 100 kid, 4-star. I think he was 94th overall, 24/7.
Yeah.
He goes to LSU. Yep, goes to LSU, transfers to Florida State. Now he's in the portal again, but he's a guy that Arkansas is eyeing to bolster wide receiver depth here.
Yeah, and when he signs, he will be the last one in this class from the portal. That will get him at 29, and he was here Friday, got here Friday and left Saturday morning. And I talked to him, and I've got a story on him when he makes a decision and stuff. And he's somebody that they feel like they can really get some mileage out of in the next 2 or 3 years. That he has good speed. And when I asked him, okay, somebody hasn't seen you play, what's your strength? I can run.
Yeah.
He said every coach tells me I can run. And that's the thing with him is he can run. And and it goes back to what we talked about with the high school kid a while ago, the receiver. Bobby and Fouch, both, Sam, all of them love speed, and they feel like this younger player he redshirted at LSU, caught 8 passes for 75 yards, I believe, at Florida State this year, and he'll have 3 years to play, and I don't know how much he'll play this upcoming year, but he may play a lot, he may not, but I think he will be somebody that eventually will give them what they're looking for there, because as you said, I mean, we all get hung up on fans get hung up on recruiting rankings. Well, he was right there with the best of them coming out of high school down there in Miami, Gulliver Prep. He was right up there with the rest of them, Jacob. So, I mean, and he's 2 years removed from high school, but he's still got talent and he got a lot of it. And they love him, and he was somebody they targeted here with that scholarship. Once Jonte Cook went to Syracuse,
Yep.
then they moved on this kid and got him in here and got a visit from him. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's one of those pickups to me where like you were alluding to there. It's just kind of a high ceiling. I'm not trying to throw out if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, right? But I mean, the
Right.
talent is obviously there. I mean, this is a guy. He was at every big time camp. He's a top 100 kid in the entire country. He's a guy. If you go look on his 24/7 profile. Back in high school, he had a day 2 draft projection. They were talking about, I think this is going to be a guy that's going to fit in the 2, 3, 4 range, right? Round wise, the NFL draft. So the talent is there. And if it's a guy that Coach Fouch and the staff feels like they can pull the talent out of, why not? When you're looking to add a wide receiver piece, and, it's not like you just throw something away, but if it works, it's going to really work. And if it doesn't work, you continue to find other options. It seems like a kind of high ceiling pickup for the Hogs.
Yeah, and it's exactly what you noted, what you pointed out earlier. It's an extension in some ways of the high school
Yeah.
recruiting, not a kid that you're signing maybe to start
Yep.
immediately. But if he starts immediately, great. But it's not
That's what I'm
somebody
saying.
necessarily.
Yeah.
So there are guys like Andrew Armstrong, Isaac, that you did that. You thinking these kids going to make it. Caleb Wooden, you mentioned
Hmm.
him, I believe, earlier. Those are kids you sign up thinking they're going to start immediately
Yeah.
or have a chance to. Maybe if he doesn't, that's fine because he's still got 3 years to play. But he's someone that they feel like they can really develop. But it's just a little bit, kind of in a way, it's a proven college player.
That,
It's just a little bit above. It's a stitch of high school recruiting, but he's a little bit proven the fact he caught 8 passes, 75 yards. And his buddies coming here from the
yeah.
quarterback down there at Florida State. So, and I will say this kid loves Taylor Green. He loved Caleb Green. He said, man, he's big. I said, yeah, he is big.
Yeah.
And I said, he's fast too. He's not, I don't know if he's as fast as you are, but he is fast. But he loved Taylor Green. He said to Taylor, keeps his eyes. Here's what he said. He said a receiver looks for a quarterback who keeps his eyes down the field and both hands on the football. And he said Talon does that. He said he watched film and he studied Talon keeping both hands on the football and his eyes down the field all the time. And he said that's great for a quarterback. That's kind of interesting because I wouldn't have thought of that. But that's what he told me from the receiver standpoint, what he's looking for. So yeah, I mean, he should be announcing something today, and we'll see how that goes. But I think Arkansas fans will be happy with that one.
Yeah, high upside pickup for sure. We'll see how it ultimately pans out. That's Jalen Brown,
Yeah.
Florida State LSU transfer that the Hogs looking to add in the wide receiver room. But that's all the time we have for this week's Arkansas football recruiting report.
Yeah.
That is Otis Kirk. I am Jacob Morris. We'll be back to talk with you next week.